Shalom, good morning. As we are quickly approaching the holiday of Passover, the holiday in which we are encouraged to break free from Egypt. We know that the name Egypt in Hebrew, Mitzrayim, is not just referring to a geographical area, but rather into a paradigm of entrapment. Because the word Egypt, Mitzrayim, comes from the root word Metzarim, boundaries and constrictions. So Mitzrayim in Egypt is a paradigm in which we're constricted, in which we're enslaved. What is a slave? A slave is someone who is forced to engage in a service that has no benefit, not for themselves, and sometimes not even beneficial for the one who is forcing the slaves to work. Furthermore, a slave has no expression. They cannot express themselves, not their feelings, not their emotions, not their mindset. They are nothing more than an object. Coming out of Egypt is leaving the very paradigm which holds us as an anchor and makes us feel stuck in life. And in that we know that the holiday of Passover actually is referenced with three different names. The first one is in the Torah. It's called Chag HaMatzot. The Torah references Passover as the holiday of matzah, of matzot. In our davening, Passover is referenced to as Zman Cherutenu, the time of our liberation. And generally, the holiday of Passover is referenced to as Passover. And the Rebbe explains that the names are not just arbitrary names, but rather, as we know, that the name of any given entity represents its very core essence. What is it here to accomplish? The Rebbe explains that these three names are not just names, but are rather a three-step program into breaking through the chains and the shackles that hold us enslaved to our own broken paradigms. First, Chag HaMatzot. After that, Zman Cherutenu. And after that, Pesach. Chag HaMatzot, the holiday of matzah, is step number one. What is the difference between matzah and chametz, which is the leaven products such as bread, cakes, etc.? In other words, it rose. Hasidic philosophy explains that matzah is the food of faith and the food of healing, while chametz represents the ego. Where do most of our ailments, our social ailments, our psychological ailments, our emotional ailments, our spiritual ailments, where do they derive from? From the ego. What is the ego? Chassidus explains that the ego is our animal soul, our animal soul's consciousness, namely the desire to control in order to achieve a perceived security, in order to achieve comfort, and the obsession with pleasure. It's the ego, the sense that I need to always control everything around me. That's ego. The first step of breaking free from our own Egypt is humility. Matzah is a bread of faith. What is faith? Accepting that everything happens from Hashem. Hashem is intimately involved with every detail of our existence, from our greatest up to our greatest down, and everything in between. Our strengths are from Hashem, and our weaknesses and our flaws are from Hashem as well. Our greatest triumphs are from God, and our greatest failings are also from Hashem as well. Each one is endowed to us as a present in order to achieve the very purpose for which our souls descended into. But sometimes it doesn't feel good. Sometimes we're required to, as we spoke about several times, to become comfortable, to be uncomfortable in order to achieve truth. But if we're willing to part with our obsession of control and security, comfort and pleasure, then we can never really stretch ourselves. We can never grow. As a matter of fact, it is very comforting to know that I'm secure and in control of my situation, no matter how dark and gloomy it is. As the American expression says, to differentiate, the devil that we know is better than the devil that we don't know. Why? Because we adapt very quickly. And when even things become toxic and dark and gloomy, but I'm comfortable already. I'm not willing to let go of this security. And if I let go of the security, it won't bring me comfort. And if I'm not comfortable, I for sure will not have pleasure. But that mindset is a broken mindset because it keeps us at bay. It doesn't allow us to break free from our own shackles. It doesn't allow us to actually experience freedom. And because of that, we're not truly happy. So the first step in coming to Pesach is asking ourselves, how much of our security, control, comfort, and pleasure is actually healthy for us? And how much is actually closing us off? When we come to Pesach, we ingest matzah. Matzah induces faith. And when a person connects to their faith, understanding it's all from Hashem. And it's not just from a God, but a loving God who views each and every one of us as his only child and only wants the best for us. We know as parents, sometimes we have to stretch our children. And it's not comfortable, but it's only for their own good. If the child resists, it's only because they want to be comfortable. But if they want to be comfortable, they will never grow. We certainly know that a child who successfully completes kindergarten is rewarded with first grade. When we complete first grade, we're rewarded with second grade. In other words, when we demonstrate mastery of a certain segment of our lives, we're not rewarded with easiness, with more comfort, with more pleasure. We're rewarded with more responsibility, with more complex challenges for us to be able to grow from and help the world grow. And when we induce faith in our minds, in our hearts, understanding that everything is divine providence, it brings us humility. What is humility? Accepting that everything that we have, the greatnesses and that which seems to be the opposite, it's all from Hashem. But it's not for nothing. We have a real God who really believes in us to really do the right thing. If we could just release from our comfort zone, from our need to control, and put ourselves into Hashem's space, into Hashem's mindset, into Hashem's emotions, through Torah and mitzvot, then we will move into a place of true growth and true freedom. We know the famous teaching from Einstein. We cannot get ourselves out of a dilemma with the same mindset that got us into the dilemma. So if we're going to achieve freedom, it has to be worked through, but with a different mindset. We'll conclude this segment with a parable. A person inadvertently walks off a cliff, but last second grabs onto a branch, and he's holding out to dear life, screaming, help me, somebody please help me. All of a sudden a voice comes from heaven, and it's Hashem. God himself says, I heard your prayers, I will help you. The guy says, thank God, thank you Hashem, thank you Hashem. Hashem says, just one caveat. Let go of the branch and I'll catch you and I'll raise you back up. The guy thinks for a second, silent, and a minute later he says, anybody else help me, anybody else help me. In other words, I'm refusing to let go of the thing that I'm slipping from because I'm afraid of what's going to happen. But if we put our faith and trust in Hashem, and commit ourselves to a Torah, a life of Torah and mitzvahs, and align ourselves with our true identity, we'll experience true freedom and true happiness.